why reincarnations, what happened, what is going to happen, how can I fix my Tycoon, my rectification. So you can ask questions. The Rabbi has requested that questions should be asked after the shiur. There's going to be plenty of time for all of us to ask questions.
Can you tag me?
Questions that you always wanted to ask, but never had a chance to do.
You have two profiles, one of them.
I don't think that the Rabbi needs any further explanation. His story is fascinating. It started about 18 years ago, I believe, with a very unique experience, and I believe that most of you will know that. We had the story 2 nights ago. You can also watch the story on YouTube. Tonight is going to be a different night. It's going to be, like I said, about reincarnations. Rabbi Anava is here. We are very honored to have him because he's a very sought-after speaker and travels pretty much all over the world, and has chosen us, Hollywood, also to stay here for a couple of days to give us classes and insights. And I learned a little bit about it, and it's fascinating what we're going to hear tonight. So I would ask Rabbi Anava to start out tonight with the class.
Thank you so much. תודה רבה. ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. Totally off the subject, but everything that we do, and especially everything that we say, creates a certain energy. I mean, the biblical term for it is called malach, an angel. But a lot of people, when you say the word angel, they're imagining some entity with a ring over their head and wings, and that's not how the angels look. But nevertheless, when we do a certain act, and when we say something, we create a certain energy. When we say the word amen, you just all answered amen. When we say the word amen, we create a certain angel. The letters Amen, Aleph Mem Nun, has the same numerical value of the name of Malach, 91. So every time we say Amen, we create a good angel that is surrounding us, a Malach Tov, a good energy around us. So sometimes it's more important to answer Amen than to say the bracha. So just a little tip before we start. So before we start, I want to make a few very quick announcements, because I don't know if you all saw it on the way in. If you are not on our WhatsApp group and you want to be added to the WhatsApp group, on the way out there's a poster with a number. Just send that number a message that you want to be added. We send daily videos, classes, and announcements. A lot of people tell me that how do I know next time you're coming? Well, we advertise it on the WhatsApp group and so forth. So if you want to be added, the number is outside on your way out. We're also about to launch our new smartphone app, which is going to be state-of-the-art app with classes, videos, everything that you want. You can also send a message to the WhatsApp to get a message that whenever it's ready, you can download it. And on the way out, I'm sure that on the way in you saw, we have CDs. The majority of them are free. Some of them are sold. The majority of them are free. Please don't only take for yourself. Take so you can give to other people. Today I heard, I think for the first time, somebody asked me, what, I can take more than one? So yeah, you can and should take more than one. Take them, give them out, spread them out. They're for free, and we give them out, and Baruch Hashem, thousands and thousands of people are affected and inspired by the CDs. One of the reasons why we're doing the app is because the CDs are starting to fade out. But nevertheless, still, they fade out. Baruch Hashem, there's a huge zchut to take the CDs and give them out to people, because you never know who's the next one who will receive a CD and will actually be inspired. And a while ago I got an email from a certain lady. She told me, you don't know me, but somebody gave me your CD a whole year. They were pushing me to take the CD. Your CD was a picture on the bookshelf. It was collecting dust. But finally I decided to listen to it. She listened to the CD and she told me, I want to tell you, I'm happy to announce that I'm covering my hair, my boys are in yeshiva, etc., etc. And that's how sometimes you can gain yourself zechut. You can buy your entire eternity by giving out a piece of metal to somebody, because they might change their life completely. So please, on the way out, help yourself, take as many CDs as you want. If you want more, you can order them online. enjoy them. And needless to say, I know a lot of you do know already, but we have a very large, broad reach online in YouTube and Facebook. If you want to follow us, you'll find all the classes and lectures. And the most important thing, the last announcement, is what we're going to be talking tonight, of course, is the topic of reincarnations. This is mainly based on the teachings of the Arizal found in the book Sha'ar HaGilgulim, the Gates of Reincarnation. I personally do not know of any good translation. I know some people like learning from translations. I personally do not know a good translation. There are a lot of, let's call it cheap imitations. You've got to be very careful what you're reading when it comes to Kabbalah and Zohar, when it comes to translations. But nevertheless, there are two major sources where we get all the information about incarnations. One of them is the Gates of Reincarnation by the Arizal, Sha'ar HaGilgulim, which he has a few students that wrote many other books of incarnations. And then, of course, the book of Zohar that can be found in majority in Parashat Mishpatim, that is called Saba Mishpatim. So these are the main two sources. Both of the sources, we have a very long and in-depth course that we're doing in my yeshiva in Tzfat. The Zohar course, we already did 62 classes. The first 15 classes, you can find there's a CD on the way out. It's called the Gates of Reincarnation. You can find the CD out. It only has 15 of the classes. We already did 61 classes, or 62. You can find them online. There's only a few of them online. The rest of the classes are posted on our Be'er Miriam website, the new website. The reason why it's posted over there, because it's a course, and it's broken into chapters and segments and sections of the course. Tonight we're going to do a very broad interview. This is not in depth. If you're interested in learning it in depth, there's two courses online that you can find. One of them is the Zohar, and the other one is the Gates of Reincarnation. The Zohar, we're already in class 61 or 62, and we still have a long way to go. And the Gates of Reincarnation, we've already been learning it for over a year. So there's dozens of classes, and it's going in depth. The Gates of Reincarnation has 40 chapters, and we're only in chapter 9. So there's a lot of information. So again, if you want to hear more and learn more, then take the information on your way out from the CDs and the actual website where you can find it. And it's not easy learning the topic. It's a very in-depth and long subject. But nevertheless, the very broad variety of people that some people you'll tell them the word incarnations, wow, the antennas stand up right away. And that's causing them a lot of excitement. Some people you'll tell them incarnations, where does it say in the Torah that there's past lives? So besides being a very in-depth topic, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of misconception when it comes to incarnations. And there's, Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of details, both, like I said, from the source of the Zohar and the book of the Gates of Reincarnations. Tonight I'm going to go very broad about the topic. We'll try to go for about 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little bit more. Then we'll do some time for questions. And the main questions I will ask you not to ask is for me to tell you what's your incarnation. So a lot of people come to me and they're like, what do you see? Well, I see a handsome man. And no. It's okay, you can tell me. I know you see. What do you see? So anybody who will come and tell you that they see something, I suggest to make a U-turn and to move away. I live in one of the most, if not the holiest places in the world, in the city of Tzfat, the city of Kabbalah. I can't talk Lashon Hara about Yerushalayim and say that Tzfat is the most holiest city in the world, but just for the sake of not having Lashon Hara on Yerushalayim, we'll say the second holiest city. But definitely one of the most holiest cities in the world, where the teachings of Kabbalah is attributed to that city. Great Mekubalim came out from the city, the Arizal, the Ramak, Rabbi Shlomo El-Kabetz, and many others. But with the mysticism and the knowledge, we also get all the cuckoos. So the buses, they come into Tzfat. The tourists walk down like that. Wow, wow. And you can sell them whatever you want. This is holy water. Really? Yeah. Can I touch? No. So we get all the, chas v'shalom, I'm not making fun of anybody, but we get a lot of the cuckoos. They will sell you anything and anything. So we do have the ones who will look at you. Wow, you have an old soul. Really? How do you know? Like as if the soul comes with a manufacture date. We're all old souls. How many times I get people come and tell me, so-and-so told me I'm a very old soul. Really? So you're going like to an old age home of souls? Like, what do you mean an old soul? We're old souls. So in our generation, we do not have an Arizal that can look at you and tell you all your past lives. I highly suggest not to listen to all the fake ones who start telling you stories about you once you were a fisherman in Italy. And best to not to go too much deep into it, because half of it, if not 90% of it, is fake. If God would want you to know what was your previous life, He would tell you. You would get some type of a notification when you're born who you were. But there are many ways of finding out not who I was, but what I need to correct. So I gave a course. It also can be found on the Be'er Miriam website. Very, very interesting. Why we have facial features. There's a reason why our faces look different, because technically we should have looked all the same. But nevertheless, our faces are different. Every person has different shaped eyebrows, different shaped foreheads, different shaped noses, lips, and so forth. The next thing that we have that is very unique to us and very fascinating is that we have a lot of lines on our hand. Not only fingerprints, but the lines on the hand. So we gave an in-depth course. I believe some of the CDs, the Zohar CDs outside, are some of these classes. Explaining what does it mean? What does it mean when you have a big forehead, a small forehead, large eyebrows, wide nose, and so forth? Everything has a meaning. The reason why it's different is because what you see here, the body, this is just a vehicle. The teachings of Kabbalah explains that the body is called Chalukah de Rabbanan, the coat of the human. You come home, you take off your coat. When we leave this world, we go out of the body. The soul, the eternal soul, goes up to where it came from, and the body, the coat, falls down on the ground and becomes nothing after a few months. So what you see here, this is just the cover. We have 5 levels to our soul. We're going to touch a little bit tonight about the idea of the 5 levels, because the part of the incarnations has to do with my refining each level of my soul. But going from the bottom to the top, we have a Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechidah. The Nefesh is the lowest of all. The Nefesh is the spiritual entity that has somewhat of a physical shape. The reason why we have a shape is because of the Nefesh. The Nefesh would look like the human being. The soul, to start with, looks like a shape of a human being. That's another thing we're going to talk about tonight, that the first and original soul that we had is the soul of Adam HaRishon. And Adam HaRishon is in the shape of a human. The body is like an empty balloon that when you empty out the air, it's like a piece of rubber. The Nefesh will penetrate into the soul, into the body, and the Nefesh will push against the body. And because the Nefesh has a shape, then now the face and the features on our hands, they get a shape. When a person dies, a few hours later, a few days later, the whole person kind of shrinks. The body slowly shrinks. It's the Nefesh that has the shape. So the Nefesh, all the lines that we have on our hands, our fingers, our forehead, everywhere, it's because that's the lines that the Nefesh has. And therefore, we're all different, because the soul is completely different. There's no identical soul. There's no duplicate. There's no replica of a soul. So if you're thinking about it, in our generation there are 7.4 billion people. 100 years ago there was 7.4. 100 years before that maybe 7.3. 100 years before that 7.2. We're talking about billions of people. There was never ever one person that the fingerprints and the lines in the hands are identical. So when I'm looking at these lines, they're telling me a lot about me. So we had a class talking about it, a series, where I was quickly explaining, and don't start looking at your hands now, and definitely don't come to me at the end of the class, what do you see? And don't go to all the ones who are looking at your hands and, oh, no. I can guarantee to you that a fraction of people in our generation actually know how to read the lines in the hand. The ones who are asking you for money and they read stuff, 90% bobkes. Nonsense. Very few people really know how to read the lines on the hand. But, since we're talking about the topic, the Arizal explains, if you are a righty, then your right hand will tell you everything about this world. All the lines in the right hand. And the left hand will tell you everything about all your previous lives. How many lives, and so forth, and things you need to fix, correct, and so forth. But again, don't look at the hand. I know, when I give the class, the whole class, people were like... So, you're not going to get anything from that. Try not to look into it. There are a lot of information. There is a book called Chokhmat HaPartzuf, The Wisdom of the Face. Most people don't really understand what it says. Even the ones who wrote it and many other embassies don't read it. Because you know what? You're going to miss one detail and your analysis is going to be completely wrong. I know it sounds very fascinating to look at a person and look at the structure of the eyes and the forehead and the eyebrows and know a lot about the person's path. And not only that, their personality and so forth. But better not to do that. So, in looking in our hands, if you are a lefty, it will be the other way around. But right hand will tell me about this life. I can tell you one thing just for the sport of it. Take a picture of your hand on a copy machine and then do that every couple of months and you'll see the lines change. Because if you do tshuva and if you increase in Torah and Mitzvot and you reduce all sorts of sins, it will affect your lifeline, your parnasah line, your health line, and so forth. But again, tonight we don't want to talk about hocus pocus. We want to be a little bit more practical, but we want to know a little bit what's going on. So the left hand will always tell you previous lives. How many lives you had and what do you need to do. Now, to remove a very big misconception when it comes to reincarnations, many people think, if they already believe in incarnations, that it's a punishment. Oh, if you came back, must be that you did something in a previous life and now you're being punished. So this is, I would say, 15% right. The majority of the incarnation has nothing to do with a punishment. It's actually a bonus and an opportunity. Yes, if I will damage something in a previous life, I will come back here to have the opportunity to fix it. Now comes the question, is it a punishment? No. Hashem has given me opportunity to fix it, to correct it. So the majority part of the incarnation, we'll talk about it very soon, has nothing to do with the punishment. It has to do with the path I need to go on. But if I will damage in a previous life by doing sins, I will get the opportunity to come back to this world and to correct it. So it can be titled under a punishment, but I see it as an opportunity. Hashem is telling me, you messed up last time, fix it up. And I would say that this is one of the most important things to take for when you're learning about incarnations, is to know that many of the struggles that I go in this life, many of the challenges and many of the problems or situations you go through is a tikkun, is a rectification for something you did in a previous life. You just have to put the gear in neutral, that's my analogy, and let the car move. Let Hashem do His thing. You just humble yourself, so Hashem will push you into situations and you just accept them and you do the best out of the situation, but we'll go through that at the end. A very quick overview of history of incarnations and how it works. In the beginning, before the world was created, don't even ask why, but Hashem desired to create a world. There are many different explanations, what Kabbalah explains, what the Midrash explains, but Hashem wanted to create a world. In the beginning there was only Hashem who was shining His infinite light. All the souls were surrounding God. And He was projecting on them infinite light of wisdom, love, and so forth. At some point the souls came to Hashem and said, listen, all you do is give us, and give us, and give us. And we want to give something to you. We want to do something. The souls were embarrassed just by receiving. The Zohar calls it Nehama de Ksufa, bread of shame. Like a poor person that comes to your house every day, knocks on the door, and puts his hand out. So Hashem says, okay, no problem. You want to give back? I have a perfect solution. I will create a world, a physical world, and I will create bodies, and I will put you in bodies, and you will have to earn your reward. Now, right away, the souls were like, listen, we were joking. Why are you taking us serious? Now, a world, a mitzvot. But that was already too late. The world was already created. And we were placed in this world. Originally, there was one neshama. This is the neshama of Adam HaRishon, or how some people will know him as known as Adam. This is not correct to say Adam. That's not his name. His name is Adam. His name is Adam, because he was created from the earth. That in Hebrew, the earth is called Adama. He was taken from the Adama. Then he had an image of God. I'm sure you're familiar with the book of Bereshit. B'tzelem Elokim nivra ha'adam. In the image of God, man was created. So he was very similar to Hashem, Adamei Elyon. I would look like the one above. So his name is Adam. Don't mistake it. Don't call him Adam. It's not correct. Then, of course, there was his wife. I'm sure you're familiar with her with two different names. Eve, you can take that out of the vocabulary. Her name is not Eve. Her name is Chava. But her original name is Chaya, not Chava. Originally her name was Chaya. It says in the Torah, she was Em Kol Chai, the mother of every human being. She's the mother of all human beings. After she sinned, mystically what the teachings of Kabbalah explains, that the Yud of her name, which is a piece of the Yud of Hashem, because her name is Chet, and then Yud-Kei. So the Yud of Yud-Kei was pulled into the Klippa by the Nachash, so the Yud became a Vav. So now her name became Chava instead of Chaya. But really the original name is Chaya. Many women are lucky to carry the name Chaya. A lot of people don't even know that it's the original name, it's not Chava. There's another explanation by the Zohar why her name was changed to Chava, because after she sinned and made Adam HaRishon sin, Adam HaRishon divorced her. He did not like the fact that she made him sin. So he divorced her, and he was without her for 130 years. Then he remarried her. But after he divorced her, then she was single. So she was on the market. And there wasn't a J-date yet. And there wasn't many other candidates. So the snake, the Nachash, came to her. Now, when we're talking about a snake, you have to remove it from your thoughts. The snake is not some spaghetti coming into Gan Eden. This is not a snake that we're imagining. He was in the shape of a human. Later on, he was cursed, and his hands were cut off, his legs were cut off. At Gechoncha tilech, you're going to crawl on your stomach. But nevertheless, the Nachash, the serpent, came to Chava and told her, "You are now free. You're single. Why don't you marry me?" Now, snake in Aramaic is called Chivya, and he says, "My name is Chivya. Your name should be Chava." So this is another explanation why she got the name Chava. But nevertheless, Adam HaRishon was the first soul, the first human. Originally, Adam HaRishon was only a neshama. It wasn't a goof. There wasn't a body. When he sinned, he fell down from his level. Last Sunday I gave a very, very interesting class where I explained a lot more what happened to the neshama of Adam HaRishon. The class will go online soon. I highly recommend to see it. It was titled, maybe you saw flyers, about the Kabbalah behind food. It's all the Kabbalistic explanation of why we eat. And why the first sin in the Torah was with food. And why we have such a desire for food, why we eat all the time, and everything around our life is about food. Whereas there I gave a very in-depth explanation about the neshama of Adam HaRishon, the purpose, why it came, what happened to it when after the sin, and so forth. But very short, after Adam HaRishon sinned, his soul broke down into many, many pieces. This is not the concept of Shvirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessel. This is a different concept, but his soul broke down into pieces, specifically into 600,000 pieces. Now, just for now, for the sake of understanding, imagine that the soul of Adam HaRishon looks like a tree. It has a trunk, it has branches, that has branches, that has branches, that has branches. We are all branches of branches of branches of branches. There's one major soul of Adam HaRishon that now, for the analogy, this is not literally, don't take the words literally, it's important. For the analogy, the soul of Adam HaRishon is like a trunk that developed main branches. These main branches, a certain individual in our history that are main branches, or to the Kabbalistic term, they're called evarim, limbs. For example, Avraham Avinu, who's Avram, Av al Kol Goyim, he's the father of many, many nations. Avraham Avinu is such a big soul that he's the whole hand of Adam HaRishon. That's why Avraham Avinu is Ish HaChesed, the man of kindness and charity, because he's in the entire right hand of Adam HaRishon. So, from great neshamot, they became pieces. Another important thing to know, this is something we're talking about it a lot, all the people in the world, all the people, there's no such thing as religions, by the way. Religions is a man-made thing. There's no religions. There's nations. 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, people started inventing religions. We came out of Mitzrayim 3,400 years ago. We were announced as a nation. Some nations were with us, some nations were against us. Unfortunately, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but unfortunately something went wrong on the way, and then many nations was not happy with the fact that they are segregated, so they say, hey, let's just invent a religion. So there's no such thing as religion. Even Judaism, I wouldn't even call it Judaism. We are the nation Am Israel. That's it. We are the nation of Israel. All the people in the world have a piece of the neshama of Adam HaRishon. Everybody. Jews and non-Jews. The difference between Jews and non-Jews, we are not called Jews, really. We are called Bnai Israel, the sons of Israel. Or, as we know, the sons of Yaakov, but his name is Israel. If you switch the order of the letters of Israel, you form a new word, Li Rosh. The souls of the Jews are the head of the part of the soul of Adam HaRishon. The nations, which in many different cases they are called or mentioned as Goyim. I know a lot of people think it's a derogatory word to say Goy. Goy in Hebrew is a body. That's what it is. The Goyim are the body of Adam HaRishon, of the soul of Adam HaRishon. In Hebrew, body is called Gviyah. That's where the name Goy comes from. And by the way, the Jews are also called Goy, just as called Goy Kadosh. Kadosh means separated. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hivdilanu mikol ha'amim. He separated us. Why? That's God's decision. But important to know that all our souls are all rooted in one soul of Adam HaRishon. When Adam HaRishon went down from his level, Chet Adam HaRishon, he broke down into 600,000 shorashei neshamot, roots of souls. Now you're looking at the world, there are hundreds of millions, not 600,000. We are all here, a branch of a branch of a branch of a branch of a branch. Just imagine in your mind, for the sake of the analysis, this is not literally how it looks, but imagine a tree that grows big branches, that grows more branches, that grows more branches and more branches and more branches. We are all branches of many, many generations into. We are not a complete soul. We're part of a soul. Usually, the people around me in my life are all from the same branch and can go even 10 generations back. 10 spiritual generations, not physical generations. So the majority of people around me are somehow connected to me. Maybe not in 1 generation back, maybe not in 2. Can go, the Arizal says, till 10 generations back, most likely everybody around you are connected. So kind of like a spiritual distant cousin. Try to backtrack to the first branch. It will separate into branches, separate into branches, separate into branches. Again, spiritually. Usually, the people around me are connected. And there's a very good chance that all of us here in this room, if you go back 20, 30 generations back spiritually, we're all connected, all from the same branch. That's why specifically in the Torah, one of the most severe sins is to hate another person with no reason, baseless hate. What's called sinat chinam. It's like my right hand hating my left hand. We're all one big piece. Needless to say, when I do something bad to another person, you're the same body, the same spiritual body. So when Adam HaRishon fell down, he fell down from Olam HaAtzilut, which is a spiritual world, into Olam HaAsiyah, to the physical world, which is called Olam HaKlipot. The world of Klipot. Klipa is a husk, or a negative energy. Now all these sparks fell down into the world and got captured by the Klipa, by this energy. Now it's time to start removing all these Klipot, all these godly sparks that fell into the Klipot. Now just imagine now, many godly sparks. Just imagine it for the sake of the example as a spark of light, fell down into the world, to the physical world, where everything here is physical, and it's trapped. And there's godly sparks in many different places. The Torah will come and tell me where are the godly sparks, and which sparks I cannot and should not touch. So last week we read in the Torah, I'm allowed to eat a sheep, and a cow, and a lamb, but I'm not allowed to eat a camel, and a bunny, or a rabbit, and I'm allowed to eat this type of fish, and that type of fish. So the Torah is not a restaurant telling me what is good for me and what is not good for me. The Torah is telling me in these animals, there is a godly spark that you can crack, so to say, the klipa, take the energy out and elevate the energy to the world above. These animals, don't touch them. You know why? Because the klipa is way too strong. You're not going to be able to crack it. On the other hand, it will hurt you if you deal with it. So don't touch the pork. Don't touch the camel or whatever it is. It will hurt you. So I have to come down to this world to start removing sparks that are stuck in a klipa. Now, the way it works with incarnations is that first I will come down to this world and I will get 3 chances, so to say, to do my tikkun. If a soul will come down to this world and 3 chances it blew it up, the soul will never come back here to this world. This is a concept that is called karet, that the soul gets cut off. Most of us, obviously, we did something in some point of our life that we were able to get one thing good, so we were able to come back here. From what we know, most of the souls always come back. We only know of 2 individuals that did all their tikkun in one visit. The soul of King David and the soul of the prophet Daniel. These are the only 2 souls that we know that never got reincarnated, that they knocked it out in one shot. There are many different books by different students of the Arizal and many other Mekubalim. There's one book that's called Gilgul Neshamot. It was written by a great Mekubal known as the Rama from Pano. His name is Rabbi Menachem Azariah. He has a book that was written Beruach HaKodesh, in divine inspiration, and he says, this person is an incarnation of that person. That person is an incarnation of this person, and so forth. It's not talking about us, it's talking about great figures in our history. And there are a lot of times hints in the Torah. I'll give you one very obvious hint in the Torah of an incarnation. Chaya, was the first one who came back as a tikkun. If you remember, Sarah Imenu could not get pregnant. Then there's the story when the angels came to Avraham Avinu. If you remember, one came to heal him, one came to destroy Sodom, and one came to tell him the message that Sarah will have a baby. A year later, she has a baby. What does it say in the Torah? If you read in the Torah, it says, Ka'et chaya v'lesara ben. In Hebrew, does not make sense at all. It doesn't even make any literal sense. Right now, she's alive and Sarah has a ben. What does it mean, Ka'et chaya? Now, chaya reached to a tikkun because of Sarah. Sarah is the incarnation of Chava, and because she was able to do the tikkun for Chava, then now she has a child. She was able to bring a child into the world. So Sarah was a gilgul of Chaya. That's why it says in the Torah, I mean, most people zoom through the Torah, they don't stop on the words to ask, that doesn't make sense. Ka'et Chaya v'lesara ben. Ka'et Chaya reached the Tycoon because of Sarah. Sarah was able to bring a ben into the world. Because the main part of the Tycoon is to birth another soul. I was explaining on Sunday, I don't want to repeat it, go and find the class online. I was explaining that when we come down here, we have two things we need to do as a Tycoon. And it will come in two forms. The forms of procreating and the form of eating. This is how we do a Tycoon in this world. Because the soul, the spark, fell down in the Klippa, the first Tycoon is that a man and a woman has to come together. When a man and a woman are together, they birth a child, they pull the neshama out of the Klippa. That's why anything that has to do with marital relations has to be sacred, has to be kadosh, has to be precise. The most severe sins in the Torah is marital relations that are not done in a kosher way. That's why on the holiest day of the year, on Yom Kippur, that's what we read. On Yom Kippur, in the highest part of Yom Kippur, in Mincha, that's what we read. All the forbidden relations. I mean, come on, it's the holy day. Why don't you tell me about the creation of the world? The 10 Commandments, telling me that a man cannot be with his daughter and his aunt and his mother and his sister and... Ugh. Because this is the core of everything. All that has to do with relations. And you see, this is one of the most biggest Yetzer Hara in all generations. Everything that has to do with marital relations. So the best tikkun a person can do is focus on that department. Marriage has to be kosher. The relations has to be kosher. Taharat HaMishpacha, Nida, Mikveh, and so forth. Not to chas v'shalom, to hurt any person, but this is something that maybe tonight you all came to hear just that. I've been saying for years, for many, many people, that I believe that 80% of the couples in America, Jewish couples, are not really married. Why? Because the chuppah was not done the right way. If the chuppah is not done the right way, it's not a real marriage. Then you have a couple living together for 20, 30, 40 years and they're not even married. Why? Because the rabbi they hired did not bother to make sure the chuppah is kosher. The first question I ask when people come to me and they have shlom bayit issues, marital problems, the first thing I ask them, are you married? Come on, look at this, it's a $40,000 ring. Well, that's very nice that you're investing in rings, but are you physically, spiritually married? Of course. And the number one cause for shlom bayit issues is because the chibur, the unit, is not done the right way. If one of the witnesses in the wedding is not kosher, the wedding is not. It's not a wedding. Then they're not married. I have a wedding album of couples that remarried. And it's not only affecting the shlom bayit, it's affecting the kids, because the kids came down with two couples that the zivug, the connection is not done right. So there's a lot of problems physically, health, mentally, emotionally. So maybe you came to hear that. Do yourself a favor. And again, it's not about offending somebody. It's just bringing awareness. And I met thousands of couples. When they looked in the ketubah, when they looked at the video, when they asked around, they found out the witnesses. This is the easiest way to find out, is the witnesses. We have a women's center in Tzfat. We have a part of the women's center is to help abused women. And a lot of them are coming trying to get out of their marriage. Now what is the loophole? Now go look. If the husband, of course, is not giving a get. Now go look. Maybe the ketubah is disqualified and you're not even married. So go look at the edim. If the witness doesn't observe Shabbat, it's not a kosher witness, the chuppah is not valid. You can have a $50,000 ring, it's worthless. I know you need 3 parts of the chuppah. You need a shtar, what's called a ketubah, that has to be kosher. You need a kinyan, something that is worth some value, a ring, that's what we do. And we need the marital relations called bi'ah, but all the components, they have to be kosher. So there is a lot of rules to that. One needs to look into it, but I find that a lot of emotional problems, mental problems, and marital problems come because of that, and it will also affect the kids. There's a lady that not too long ago also came and told me they have shlom bayit issues. We went through the whole thing. She told me all the kids have issues, different issues, can get married, health problems, and so forth. One of the daughters could not even get pregnant. We looked into the chuppah. They weren't even really married. They got married in their 60s. The woman was the one who's starting to get into the program, as they say, and the husband was not so happy. I have a fan club of husbands. And the husbands that don't like me. Because every time the women come home, they start covering their hair, they're koshering the kitchen, they start keeping family purity. Ooh, I have a whole fan club of husbands that are very unhappy with me. Not too long ago, I went to a lecture, doesn't matter where, so shouldn't be chas v'shalom or shonara. I went to some lecture, somebody invited me to speak somewhere. So, the lady who invited me, she told me, my husband is going to come and pick you up from the airport. Okay. So he's picking me up, very uncomfortable scene. I'm sitting in the car like, and I know he wants to slaughter me. And silence, 20 minutes in the car. How was your flight? Baruch Hashem. And at some point he stops the car and he looks at me and he tells me, every night when I come to bed, I find you in bed with my wife. I wanted to jump out of the car. So, of course, that's not what you think. He told me, she wakes up with listening to you, she goes to sleep with listening to you. She cooking with listening to you, all I hear is your horrible, annoying voice. I can't stand your voice, I can't stand how you look. Alon says this, Alon says this, Alon says this, Alon says that. So I have a very broad fan club of very angry husbands. Especially when it comes to covering the hair, koshering the kitchen, and going to the mikveh. But nevertheless, this lady, I told her, I think you should consider doing a wedding with your husband. You don't have to make a hole in the whole shtick. Just go to the Beit Din with 2 witnesses, do the whole thing. She said, how am I going to tell him that? But nevertheless, he went along, they did the wedding, she took it serious, she actually put a wedding gown, a couple in their 60s. And she told me, maybe 3 months later, she's like, you will not believe the change, how it affected our entire family. Completely, because it will retroactively affect kids, grandkids, everybody. The same thing is with everything. I'm going to tell you something personal. When I became observant, I didn't grow up religious. I grew up very, very secular. And when I became observant, of course, one of my first goals was to inspire my parents to become more observant. So, they started with kosher the kitchen, and so forth, and slowly. At some point, I got the nerve, and I told my mom, have you ever been to the mikveh? She says, yeah, the night before my wedding. Have you ever been to the mikveh since then? She was like, no. So I told her, so I was born into nida, into state of impurity? She was like, yes. So I told her, do you mind going to the mikveh? She was like, are you out of your mind? I said, no, I'm not out of my mind. Would you consider going to the mikveh? She's like, I don't have my cycle already for 20 years. He says, yeah, but after you had your last cycle, you still have to go to the mikveh. So you are still nida all that time. Well, and I told her, listen, it's affecting me. And it's affecting my siblings. The fact that you, my mom, is nida. I'm saying you're not a bad person, but you didn't go to the mikveh. It was a lot of backwards and forth. So then I found the secret key. I told her, if you don't want to do it for me, do it for my kids. Oh, the grandkids? Okay. Now go explain to my father why his wife cannot touch him for a whole week. But nevertheless, she did the whole thing, counting the days. She went to the mikveh in her late 60s. And she reported, she was like that, it was the most amazing experience I ever had. She said, I felt a rock was removed from my neshama. And that's affecting the kids, the grandkids, everybody, retroactively. So maybe, I don't know, I'm touching a few things that is not on the topic tonight, but obviously that's what Hashem wants me to say, so obviously some ears need to hear that. So, I don't even know how I sidetracked to that, But I was talking about marriages. I was mentioning that many of the marriages, I don't know how it is in Europe or other countries. I know how it is in America. I married couples in America. I know how many rabbis are not particular with how the rule is done. Because if I'm not going to call my uncle Johnny to be the witness, he's going to be very upset. So I have to call all sorts of uncles to be the witnesses. So, and I once officiated a wedding, and the condition was A, B, and C, and they're like, we can't have like Shomrei Shabbat witnesses in our chuppah. I mean, the family will get very upset. So I was like, so I can't do your wedding. How can I marry off if the witnesses are not kosher? But nevertheless, not to sidetrack too much. Again, I don't even know how I got there, but I was explaining that when we come down to do a tikkun here, the tikkun will come in two forms: bringing kids into the world and eating. These are the two ways how I do a tikkun in this world. Everybody. That's why the biggest yetzer hara and the biggest lusts that we have is in marital relations and in food. So go to the reference of the class I gave on Sunday. It's a very long class with a lot of information. Very, very interesting, because it will teach us how I reach to my tikkun. Today we just want to talk about the actual tikkun. So, going back to what we were saying, I will get a chance as a soul to come down to this world to do a certain action. It's actually more than one action. The Arizal explains. Arizal, by the way, is Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. Lived about 450 years ago in the city of Tzfat. He was born in Yerushalayim. After his father died when he was a very young kid, he moved with his mother to Egypt, lived by his uncle, who was a great Mekubal. The Arizal was already then a superstar in the spiritual world. He would go every day out by himself, do his bodedut, and meet Eliyahu Navi, who would taught him many secrets of Kabbalah. And at some point in his life, he told him, okay, go to the city of Tzfat. He was in the city of Tzfat for a year and a half, and then he died when he was 36 years old. And needless to say, left us an unbelievable legacy of Kabbalah, that the majority of his teachings, by the way, we do not have. He would write scripts, what's called kitvei hari, and he would burn them right away. For chas v'shalom, they should not come to the wrong hands. The story says that there was a very wealthy man in Tzfat that they wanted to put their hands on the scripts, the kitvei hari. The hari would never sleep. He would take like these little naps. One time, he actually slept, and they noticed that he's sleeping. This rich person, they hired like 300-400 avrichim, students. They went, they stole the scripts. Everybody was copying it for about an hour, and that's what we have. These are the Kitvei Arizal. What we have now is what from that little night that they took. The rest we don't have. Needless to say, that I can guarantee to you that a fraction of people on our planet can actually understand what it says. The majority of people will tell you they think they understand what it says and teach you all sorts of things under the title of Kabbalah. Take my personal advice. In our generation, there are a fraction of people who actually really know Kabbalah. It's not the ones who are teaching you all sorts of hocus pocus. So, but nevertheless, we have enough information that is enough for us for now. So the Arizal explains in the Gates of Reincarnation that we have to come down to this world to perform all 613 mitzvot in thought, speech, and action. When we finish that, you're done, go home. How do we perform that all in thought, speech, and action? I can do a mitzvah with action. I can put tefillin physically. I can learn about the halachot of tefillin and understand it in my mind, so I do the mitzvah in my mind, and I can learn it with my mouth, and that's how I do it with speech, bedibur. But we have to do all the mitzvot in thought, speech, and action. What it says to us, this is what I derive out of it, is since we don't have a Mishkan or a Bet HaMikdash, then we can't do korbanot. That's 70% of the mitzvot we can't do. We don't have a Bet HaMikdash, we don't have sacrifices, we don't have Kohanim. We have Kohanim, but we don't have a Bet HaMikdash, and so forth. How do we do these mitzvot? In thought and in speech, which means I have to learn all the laws of Bet HaMikdash, laws of sacrifices, and so forth. But you know also what it means? That all of us must have lived either in the desert, either in Bet HaMikdash HaRishon, or Bet HaMikdash HaShani, because we already performed these mitzvot, so we don't have it right now. But nevertheless, I have to come to perform all this cycle. So I would say the most important thing for you to take from tonight is, are you performing the mitzvot in thought and in speech of things that we cannot do right now? And if you don't, I highly suggest you start doing it. And there are books. So you read different books and you learn the laws. It's not so difficult. And if you don't know Hebrew, find somebody who will teach it in Hebrew and translate. And I'm sure there's some translations. But you want to go through different books that will cover the mitzvot that we cannot do in action. Now the way it works, very, very briefly, because this is going through about 5 chapters in the Gates of Reincarnation, our soul is built from 5 levels that we know of. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechidah. These are the terms. Really, The Zohar explains that the soul is built from 125 levels, because each and one of these 5 levels that I mentioned is built from 5 levels. And each one of those levels is built from another 5 levels, which makes it the lowest of all, Nefesh, the Nefesh, the Nefesh, and the highest, Yechidah Sheba Yechidah Sheba Yechidah. 5 times 5 times 5. Now, don't try to understand it right now. Really, when you want to understand it in depth, like I told you, go look at the course. The way to understand it, I'm sure you ever saw these types of cups when they're all in one long pile. So one cup goes into another cup, into another cup, into another cup. The height changes, right? But the diameter doesn't. I can't turn it out, the water will come out. But the diameter of the cup doesn't change. So the neshama is said to say a level, in a level, in a level, in a level, in a level, and then it grows up high, 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 high. From the lowest, which will be the nefesh, the nefesh, the nefesh, and the highest will be Yechidah Sheba Yechidah Sheba Yechidah, which will be the highest. And that's how we start ascending higher and higher. Why? Because the klipa is holding the nefesh. The nefesh fell down into the world. And we have to climb out and higher and higher and higher. In general, the way it works, that I have 50 levels in my nefesh that I have to refine and climb. And the calculation is there are 5 spiritual worlds. Now is definitely not the time to teach it. If you maybe know or not know, maybe it's familiar to you, but we have 5 spiritual worlds. There are many other spiritual worlds, but 5 that we know of. Olam HaAsiyah, the world of action, is the lowest. Then above it comes Olam HaYetzirah, the world of formation. Above that comes the world of Bria, the world of creation. Above that comes the world of Atzilut, the world of an emanation. And above that comes another world called Adam Kadmon. Or the Kabbalistic term to it is Ak. An acronym of Aleph and Kuf. Adam Kadmon. I know some people say, who? What? Where did you bring this one from? But nevertheless, that's the world above the world of Atzilut. When we're saying the word above, don't imagine one world above in its level. Really, the teachings of Kabbalah explains, it says one inside the other. It's not above each other. Which means Olam HaAsiyah is more diameter around, and Yetzirah is inside, and Bria is inside, and Atzilut is inside. It goes like this, not like that. It's not going up, it's going in. It's the same thing with the Sfirot, by the way. In the course of the Reincarnation, I'm touching it, because many people, they think that the Sfirot, they go Malchut, Yesod, Hod, Netzach, and they go up. Who said that? Who said that they're going up and down? It's turn it this way. It's inside. Right? So the highest is more in, the lowest is more out. But nevertheless, the Nefesh has to climb 50 levels. 10 Sfirot in the level of Nefesh times the 5 Olamot. So we have 50 levels that the Nefesh has to climb. Unfortunately, how it works in this world is that the Nefesh can go up and down in the levels. When you refine yourself, you follow the Torah, you do Mitzvot, you do acts of kindness and so forth, you're climbing up and up and up. The bad news is that you can reach to the 49th level in the level of Nefesh and fall down with a sin. The analogy that I give, I'm sure you're familiar with the game Snakes and Ladders. Snakes and Ladders is a board, and you have like these cubes. And you throw a dice, and you start walking on the board. If you hit a ladder, you jump up. If you hit a snake, you jump down, you fall down. Look how mystical this game is. When you stand on the snake, the Nachash, the Yetzer Hara, you will fall down. So in this game, you can go to the number 99 on the board, fall on a snake, and you go all the way down. And you can fall on a ladder, and the ladder will be a jumping board up. And we constantly have opportunities of ladders. These are called either auspicious times, we spoke about it last Tuesday, and sometimes you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, and you have the choice of doing it or not. Usually it will be a very difficult mitzvah, and most people will choose not to take it, and they just skipped over a ladder. When you have an opportunity to stand on a ladder, take it. Now I'll give you one example out of many. A lot of people like doing a mitzvah that is called Hachnasat Orchim, meaning that I have guests in my home. Now, if you have a 17-room mansion, and that's not really Hachnasat Orchim. You have 3 maids that are cleaning up. I mean, it's nice of you. But when you have a studio apartment and a family of 6 people are sleeping in your home for 2 weeks, that's achnasat orchim. So sometimes an opportunity will come to do an unbelievable mitzvah, and in your mind you're like, oh, I really don't feel like doing this right now. But that might be the ladder for you that throws you up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 levels because you did something that was beyond hard for you to do. So in the level of Nefesh, I climb up and I can fall down, and I can climb up and fall down. This is the majority of us, by the way. Now, when I reach to the 50th level of Tycoon of my Nefesh, then this is called Nefesh Metukenet, a correct Nefesh. Now what will happen is that I will get an upgrade and I get my Ruach. Now I'm starting to operate in the level of Ruach. And that's a high level, by the way. The good news is that with Ruach you can fall down into Nefesh. Once you're upgraded, you do not fall down. The amazing part is, this is where it becomes a little bit sophisticated and definitely harder to explain tonight. And I'm constantly going to refer to you, go look at the course because that's where it's explained in depth. The Gates of Reincarnation explains that once I reach the level of Ruach, the Nefesh is being removed. It's placed in a safe place. Usually will be Gan Eden, unless sometimes it will stay with the Ruach. But when the Ruach is operating, it's almost like flying now with 2 engines, not with 1 engine. How it would affect me as a human being? I will have greater love to the Torah. I would read something from the Torah, understand it like that. I will do the Mitzvot with much more excitement, much more precise, and so forth, not so quick to sin. That's already flying on a higher altitude. The advantage with Ruach is when you reach a certain Tikkun with the Ruach, you multiply the Ruach. So now you can have 2 Ruchot. And you can add more and more and more, and you multiply more Ruach, another Ruach, another Ruach. Now, this is not going to cause schizophrenia. This is just going to cause you to have a lot of Ruchot. The easiest way to explain it, some people, what they do is they love buying real estate. So imagine now you buy an apartment in a building, right? You paid the mortgage, now you own the apartment. Now you can buy another apartment in the building, and another apartment in the building, and another apartment. Finally, you own the whole building. And then you can also own another building over there and another property over there. Who stops you to owning a lot of properties? Same thing here. You can, so to say, multiply your Ruach. Then the person will continue climbing up and reach to a level of Neshama. This is, in most cases, not in our level. It's a very high level of Tikkun. And then, of course, it will grow to Chaya and Yechidah. These were the levels of Tzaddikim. We are mainly stuck in the level of Nefesh, not to Chas v'Shalom discourage anybody. A very important detail that we need to understand is that when I'm born, that's when I receive my Nefesh. When I'm 12, if it's a woman, and 13, if it's a boy, then we receive the level of Ruach. When we're 20, females and males, then we receive the level of Neshama. That's why till the age of 20, we're missing parts of our soul. How is that affecting me? It will affect my da'at, my comprehension, understanding things, or we call it maybe maturity. But nevertheless, the levels of the neshamot, they correspond to the spiritual worlds. So the lowest of all, Nefesh, will correspond to the world of Asiyah, then Ruach, world of Yetzirah, Neshama, world of Bria, Chaya, world of Atzilut, and Yechidah, the world of Ak. This is how we constantly grow. And needless to say, the spiritual world will correspond to the Sfirot. So for example, the world of Bria will correspond to the Sfirah of Chokhmah and to the level in my Neshama that is called Neshama. So where do we see a person in the level of Neshama? In our generation, you will see a great rabbi that is beyond the average individual when it comes to knowledge. What we call in our term, Chacham. Why is he Chacham? Because he's in a level of Neshama, and his Chokhmah is so developed, because his Tikkun already is a level of Neshama, so he will know the Torah inside out. Look, for example, just for the sake of example, and I'm not that I'm making an analysis, I'm just trying to explain what it means. Look, right now in our generation, there's a great rabbi of Chaim Kanievsky. Knows the Torah inside out. He finished the entire Shas every year. Most men don't even do it in their entire life. He does the entire Shas every year and knows it inside out. This is Chacham. Now again, I'm not starting to make an analysis, Tzaddik, not Tzaddik. This is level of chokhmah, that he knows the Torah inside out, like a photographic memory. There you see, this is an operation in the level of neshama. Sometimes you see tzaddikim in the level of chaya, sometimes you see tzaddikim in the level of yechidah. And we see it in our generation. So some tzaddikim, they will reach to the level of yechidah. And some of them go into such a high level. I was sharing a story on Sunday with the Baba Sali because we were talking about food. Before I tell you the story, I will just do a sidetrack to explain one important thing. The Incarnations, if I sidetrack and I forget, remind me the story with the Baba Sali. In general, when I come into this world to do another life, the point is to grow spiritually, to refine all my levels, to climb higher and higher and higher, reach a Tycoon and leave this world. Unfortunately, on the way, I will do a lot of sins. That's the unfortunate reality, that the soul will come here to fix, but at the same time also to damage. I have to be very careful not to damage, because I'm already coming with a minus, with a deficit from previous lives. So now I'm creating another minus. So in general, very, very general, and like I told you tonight, I'm throwing a lot of details in the air just to bring some interest. The Arizal explains that usually what will happen is when I come down in Incarnations, I will come down in the form of a human being, and usually will come in the same gender. Usually it will be in the same gender, and the Arizal says that usually the person will look exactly the same. Please remind me on the way out to show you the picture. You know, maybe if you don't mind, maybe Daniel, go get from Rivka, tell her the old phone. I'm going to show you something. You're going to jump out of your body. The Arizal said usually we come down to this world and we are the same gender. If a person comes in a different gender, this is not a good thing. And then there will be all sorts of gender identities. We're not going to get into this tonight. Sensitive topic. But nevertheless, usually it will be the same gender. Usually the person would look the same. And then the person will have the opportunities to do a tikkun, to do a tikkun, to do a tikkun. If chas v'shalom, a person will not be able to reach to the rectification, then the next level of gilgulim will be into an animal. And first it will come into a kosher animal, which means, thank you, a sheep, a cow, a goat. Why? Because there will be an opportunity to do a tikkun. By slaughtering the animal the right way, eating in a kosher way, the person says bracha on it and so forth. Chas v'shalom, the neshama did not reach a tikkun, it will go into an unkosher animal. And this will be cycles of 3. 3 cycles in a kosher animal, 3 cycles in an unkosher animal. Still didn't reach a tikkun, it will go 3 times into something vegetation, a tree. And there's no such a thing, and there is. It's hard to understand what's a not kosher tree, but there are trees that are not kosher. How can a tree be not kosher? In Eretz Israel, there are trees that are planted on Shnat Shemitah. You're not allowed to plant on Shnat Shemitah. In Israel, if the fruit of the tree is in the first 3 years, it's called orla, you're not allowed to eat it. So this is how a tree will have a form of something not kosher. And, needless to say, the tree can be taken and build an idol from it. Or a tree can be chopped off and do a bima, or aron kodesh, or part of the Sefer Torah, or a sukkah, and so forth. Then, if chas v'shalom the soul still did not get a tikkun, it will go into an animate. So there are souls in stones. There are souls in trees. There are souls in animals. There are souls everywhere. Now, before I continue, I want to briefly show you. I'm going to show it first to the camera. Then you can, I hope it's not going to distract you. But this is, one day I wake up in the morning and I open my phone. And I see the picture and I almost fainted. So first we'll show it to the video. I don't know how good you see it. I'll pass it around. Okay, now maybe somebody come and take it. And look at the nice gentleman on the left. And you can tell me who it looks like. This is a picture from 100 years ago. We'll get to it. See the guy on the left? Looks familiar, right? Every feature on that picture is me. The shoulders, the jaw, the beard, the eyebrows, everything. Don't get too distracted now, but everybody's like, Now don't go like this, some other pictures. But nevertheless, maybe pass it around. No, it will come to everybody. Who is this person? I have no idea. Somebody sent me a picture and told me, do you know this guy? This is a footage from some documentary that was done somewhere in the 1900s, somewhere in Europe. We don't know who the person is. It was just a random picture. You look at the picture, it's me. It looks like me. So this is where you get the chazakah that when we come down here, we would almost all the time look the same. Now, I'm sure you saw online, there's some pictures that you see a certain individual, how they looked, and some ancient picture. But nevertheless, this is again just to bring up the excitement and the interest, that a lot of times we come back and we look the same. Now, going back to what I was saying before, so there will be an opportunity for a soul to be reaching a Tycoon. Like I said, first we'll have the opportunity to come in a human, do the Tycoon. If Chas v'Shalom it will not reach to, we'll go into an unkosher animal, to a kosher animal, unkosher tree, kosher tree, and to an inanimate. So there's a very good chance there are souls stuck in stones. Back to what I wanted to tell you before with the story of the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali would fast the entire week. He would only eat on Shabbat. One time he's sitting in his yeshiva, and suddenly he gets up, he calls his driver. And he tells the driver, get the car, we have to go somewhere. Okay, where are we going? We're going to Aza. Aza? Aza is Gaza. Once we would easily drive in there. Okay, they start driving, and the driver doesn't ask what's going on. They come to Aza, the Baba Sali tells them, go over here, go over there, go over there. They go into some market. The driver tells him, what do we need to do? He says, we need to buy a watermelon. A watermelon? He tells him, yeah, a watermelon. Now the driver doesn't understand. I mean, my Rabbi doesn't eat. Suddenly he has munchies. He wants a watermelon. Okay, they go to the market. The Baba Sali tells him, don't stop here, don't stop there, don't stop. He tells him where to stop. He tells him, stop here. Okay, they stop in front of a basta. How do you say a basta? You know, where all the watermelons are there stacked. Hundreds of watermelons. The driver goes out of the car and he starts pointing at the watermelons. The Baba Sali is sitting in the car saying, no, this one. No, not that one. No, this one. The driver puts his hand on one of them. That one! Okay, they buy the watermelon, take it in the car, go back to Netivot to the yeshiva. Baba Sali calls all the students and tells them, now we're going to cut the watermelon and we all have to say brachot, blessings, b'kavanah, real good, the right kavanah. And of course they follow what the Baba Sali says. They don't ask questions. Later on they tell him, what's going on? Baba Sali says that during his shacharit prayer, a soul came to him and told him that he got reincarnated in a watermelon that is right now in Aza, and if a non-Jew will eat it without a blessing, he will not get his aliyah. He needs a Jew to eat the watermelon and say a bracha, a blessing. And he went down, brought the watermelon, and released the neshama out of the watermelon. So just every time before you eat, just know, you might be elevating a soul. Don't worry to eat. You're not going to eat the soul. You elevate the soul. You release the soul. That's why kosher food, you have to understand, maybe there's a neshama, even in a not kosher food. And sometimes by not eating the not kosher food, it's also a tikkun to a neshama. Now, like I said before, many people think that an incarnation is a punishment. It's not a punishment. First of all, because when I come back into this world, Hashem told me, you did not finish your job. You're still missing X amount of mitzvot. Now there's a very good chance that I can only talk about myself, not you, that I'm missing 22 mitzvot in action, 33 mitzvot in speech, and 47 mitzvot in thought, in action, whatever, thought. I don't know what they are. Therefore the Torah tells me I have to do all the mitzvot. Now, the Arizal explains that usually the mitzvot that I already completed here in this world will be very, very simple and easy. You know where you see it the most? When a person becomes a Baal Tshuva. Some mitzvot they do like that. Some mitzvot takes them 40 years to get to do them. And not even a Baal Tshuva, any person. The indication of the mitzvot that I have to put most of my focus on are dafka the ones that are the most hardest for me to do. Because the ones that are easy for me to do, it means that most likely I already completed it to my tikkun. And right now, I don't have a big Yetzer Hara. Some people, for them to pray nets in the morning is the easiest thing. They love it. They'll jump out of bed. Another person, to pray, to put tefillin on, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he still didn't put tefillin on. Why? Not because he's a bad person. Because there's a big yetzer hara. I know many, many men. Maybe some of you will relate with me, and it's not to chas v'shalom insult anybody. They wake up in the morning, check their email, time passes, oh, I didn't put tefillin yet. It's already 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, I'll catch the 10 o'clock minyan. There's a shul that the ones who are playing late, the phone calls, the Facebook, the shmeisbook, it's already 11, it's already 12, it's already 1, 2 o'clock. I didn't put tefillin on. I can't pray shacharit anymore. They put tefillin on 2 minutes before shkia. Why? Yetzer hara. That person needs to focus specifically on tefillin. That's why the yetzer hara will stop that person as much as he can. Don't put the tefillin on, because that's the tikkun. And this is one example of many. It's not just, don't be locked just on tefillin. Some women, it's the easiest thing for them to cover their hair. Other women, oh, this is the biggest yetzer hara. Why? That's the tikkun. So the indication is whatever is the easiest for you, or easy comes, good. Still do it. There's a very good chance you already did there the tikkun. The tikkun is a rectification, by the way. And tikkun is not necessarily that something is broken and you fix. Tycoon is to arrange, so to say. Now going back to what I was saying, if there's certain mitzvot that are hard for you, there's a very good reason. The harder it is, the more you have to put your focus on. That's most likely the tikkun in the mitzvot that you need to do. So again, this is not a punishment, this is a bonus, this is the love of Hashem that He gives you the opportunity to do the mitzvah. Now what happens if I messed something up in a previous life? Then the kindness of God is that He's going to tell me, I'm going to send you back to the world to fix it. And Hashem is going to be so kind that He will bring you the opportunity to fix it. You have to be receptive and open-minded to understand that a lot of the things that you go through is for you to rectify something that you did in the past. By the way, don't go with the picture with my phone home. I know... if anybody, if you don't finish, maybe pass it around. You know, I'm saying that because once I used to come to lectures when I would say my near-death experience, I would come with pictures. Everybody would take the pictures home. You know how many pictures that people have of me somewhere in their home, probably hanging on a wall? I would say, where's the picture? I don't know. But nevertheless, just to give you one example out of many about what does it mean to do a tikkun. There is a story, also taught with a Rizal. The story happened about 450 years ago in the city of Tzvat. And the story goes as follows. I'm sure some of you already heard it many times, or sometimes. But there was a very rich man who lived in Tzvat. He had a daughter who was single. He couldn't get her married. Finally, after many years of trying to find her, the chatan, the groom, she comes home and she says, I found a nice man I want to marry. Okay. He calls him up. He sees this skinny, pale guy, skinny and pale. He's all day long sitting in yeshiva, learning Torah. The father wasn't so happy with the candidate. He was hoping to get somebody sharp to run the business. But the daughter was happy. He says, fine, you're happy? Fine. You get married with him. Comes the day of the wedding. The father of the bride comes to the groom with a very large amount of money. And he says, here's a lot of money. This is half of my fortune. And I'm giving you now this money so you can take care of my daughter. Because I know you're going to be sitting in yeshiva all day long and learning. You're not going to be bothering to work. Here's money. Okay, very nice father-in-law. A month after the wedding, the bride dies. The father comes to the groom and he tells him, give me back my money. The groom says, I don't want to give you the money. It's my money. You gave it to me. The father says, no, I gave it to you so you can support my daughter. The daughter died. Give me back my money. No, I'm not giving you back the money. They start arguing, like two good Jews. They go to the Beit Din, to the Jewish court. Who's the Av Beit Din, the head of the Beit Din? Maran the Bet Yosef Karo, the rabbi who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He's the Av Beit Din. They come to him with a question. He looks at the information and he says right away, according to halacha, the father of the bride gets to keep the money. Give him back the money. Of course, the father of the bride is very happy. The groom is not happy. He's like, I'm not happy with this psak din, with the verdict. I don't think the money belongs to him. I want to keep the money. They start arguing, of course. The groom says, I want to go and talk to the Arizal. You want to talk to him, you think he's your friend. Oh, he's very persistent, he wants to talk to the Arizal. Okay, they go to the Ari. The Arizal had an angel. Some great tzaddikim, they have an angel, it's called a Magid. A certain angel that sits and whispers to the person everything that's about to happen. So they don't have to tell him anything. He knows everything. The two people walk into his room, he already knows exactly what's the situation. He doesn't even bother to listen to the story. He just says, the groom keeps the money. Ooh, the groom keeps the money? Yes. Why? The father says, but the Beit Din, according to Halakha, it says that I get the money. The Arizal says, listen, if you want to go by the Halakha, yes, you keep the money. The money is yours. But the Arizal says to the father, you, your daughter, and this man are all a Gilgul. You all came together from a previous life. In a previous life, you were all business partners. You and your daughter cheated him, the groom, out of his money. All three of you came into this world to do a tikkun. Now you're giving back the money. If you give him back the money, he tells the father, you will be receiving your tikkun. Your daughter will go to Gan Eden. He will leave this world. You finish with it. If you don't give him back the money, all three of you will come back here again till you pay him back the money. So that teaches us that many things that happened to me in my life is something that I came to correct from a previous life. And I will try to fight it. And I will try in any type of way to win it over, instead of just saying, you know what, it doesn't belong to me. Or this is happening because I did something. And don't try to analyze it, because it will drive you crazy. And definitely don't start becoming OCD on things like this. But that's why when bad things happen in your life, the first thing you need to do is a quick analogy. Maybe I did something. The Talmud says, "Haba'al adam yisurim mefashpesh b'ma'asav." A person has yisurim, hardship. Look in your actions. Maybe you did something. If you just got a ticket, or the boiler exploded, or somebody bumped into your car, or some type of a financial loss, then look into your actions. You know what? Maybe you owe somebody money. Maybe you promised somebody money and you didn't give them. Maybe you did gezel. Gezel is not really stealing, but there's very many ways how you fail. Gezel is a form of stealing. Thank you. I'll give you an example with gezel. This is something you definitely want to learn, because a lot of people don't understand. They say, I don't steal. Yeah, but you do a lot of things that are falling under the category of gezel. Stealing is when you break into somebody's house in the middle of the night. Gezel can be done in broad daylight, and the person that you're doing it to doesn't even know that he's suffering a financial loss. If somebody steals something that you belong, you know it's stolen. Gezel, I don't know if you did that to me. I'll give you one example out of many, because we had a few classes in our seminary for the women about gezel. And one woman asked me a very, very smart question. She told me one day that we were going on a trip. We stopped at 7-Eleven to buy drinks. But we knew that the next day we're going to do a barbecue with hot dogs. So I went to the point in the 7-Eleven in the corner where they sell the hot dogs, and I took a few bags of ketchup. I told her, that's gezel. Who allowed you to take those ketchup bags? Yeah, but everybody takes. Who cares what everybody takes? You did not buy it. That's gezel. You might come back to this world because of a bag of ketchup that is worth 10 cents. So, no, with all, I'm going to put the jokes aside. I told her, you are not allowed to take this ketchup. You go to the counter and you want to buy it, or buy a bottle of ketchup. And even if you go to the guy in the counter and tell him, can I take ketchup? He's not the owner to tell you you're allowed to take the ketchup. And this is one example out of many, because many people ask, if I go to a hotel, can I take the little shampoos? You have to ask the front desk, are these for me to take? If they don't allow you, you're not allowed to take them. This is another form of gezel, and there are many forms of gezel. That you sit in a restaurant, and then on your way out, you're taking 40 toothpicks just to have in my handbag. No, it's not for you to take, to put it in your handbag, to have napkins and toothpicks and mints. You take 3 or 4 for what you need for that meal. The rest is gezel. You got to be very careful with that, because these are things that people will come back into this world to do a tikkun. So when things happen in your life, don't be so shocked. First, look in your actions if you did something. right? Because you want to make sure if chas v'shalom there's a physical problem, a health problem, look if you hurt another person. Maybe you insulted somebody. Maybe you did somebody to someone and it's coming back to you as a physical affliction. Usually the hint will be in the department of what you did. After you made a quick analogy and you maybe figured out that you did something, do a tikkun, do a tshuva. And if you didn't, then let it go. Or our sages say, Kabbalah isurim be'ava. Accept the hardship with love. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is a very good chance that He's turning things around to you and you are doing the tikkun and it's good for you. I'll give you one example. A lady came to me a while ago in one of my lectures and she told me, I have a question for you. I don't know what to do. Many years ago I married my husband, we started a business. She said, I was the business. I was the one who innovated and invented and worked and the business ended up making millions of dollars. At some point my husband divorced me, kicked me out, stayed with all the money, and I'm with nothing. She was like, okay, that is less bothering me. But even though it's my business, I did everything. It's not fair. I should have at least half. What bothers me, she says, that now he got remarried. Now the new wife is the one who's receiving all the money, which she says, I also don't care so much about that. What I care about is that my kids, which is his kids, he gives nothing. And the kids of the new wife, he buys them houses, cars, sends them to universities. That's not fair. It's my money. So I told her, what did you do to try to get it back? Did you try to talk to him? No, nobody to talk to. So I told her, did you try legally to get it? Yeah, we went to court. What was the result? I lost. And I was like, why did you lose? She was like, well, he has the money. He had good lawyers. Okay. Did you try to appeal? She said, we went to court the second time. I said, what happened then? She was like, we lost again. So I told her, I think the money doesn't belong to you. I think this is your test that you think the money belongs to you. I don't think it belongs to you, because if it would belong to you, then Hashem would, so to say, maneuver the situation that you will get the money back either through a court case, either through a lawsuit, either through he will come and say, here's money. But you tried, based on the rules in this world, you went legally into a court, you tried whatever you could, and you still did not get the money. Maybe try to make another attempt, but if the money is not coming to you, maybe the money doesn't belong to you. And of course I gave her the same story that I just gave you. Sometimes in life things happen and has nothing to do with this life or with your behavior. It's coming from a previous life, and you need to somehow come up quickly to an analogy, where is it coming from, or just to let the situation go and just see how it's evolving. And a lot of it is a tikkun that's coming from a previous life. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody in our generation that you can go to and they will give you a map of what was going on. Don't go to people to start telling you all sorts of nonsense. Because I know people start inventing all sorts of things. You did this in a previous life, you did that in a previous life. The easiest way to know what I need to correct from a previous life, first of all and most important when it comes to Torah and Mitzvot. We all have to keep the Torah and Mitzvot. There's no difference between one Jew and another. And the non-Jews, they also have to keep their 7 laws of Noach, which they're not 7, they're more like 70. And when you're going into details, it's more like 150 laws. Everybody has to follow the Torah. There's no other thing that any human being on this planet needs or can follow. We have the Torah, that's the book for everybody. Jews have to follow 620 mitzvot, 613 from the Torah, 7 from our sages. Non-Jews have to follow 7 laws of Noah. I suggest for any non-Jew to go and learn them deep, thoroughly, and follow them. Very soon Mashiach is coming. There's not going to be religions and faiths and all sorts of other heroes for some religions. There's going to be one God, and that's it, and the God for everybody. But the tikkun is major done through the Torah, through following the mitzvot, learning Torah, performing the mitzvot, and so forth. And needless to say that many parts of my tikkun will come with everybody around me. My wife, my kids, my business, my financial situation, my gains, my loss, everything will be part of the tikkun, part of the rectification that I have to go through one step after another step after another step. I just have to be receptive to accept it. That's why the Torah will teach you to be humble, to humble yourself, not to develop all sorts of forms of arrogance and ego, that I will be judging situations in a way that I will not understand that this is actually something good for me. Now, a very important thing I skipped a lot of things, but one thing that I think is very, very important to know is that when I reach to a level of the Tycoon that my Nefesh is complete, Nefesh metukenet, in many cases, the Nefesh will stay with the Ruach. In a lot of cases, the Nefesh will go to Gan Eden and sit there so it cannot be touched. Don't think for 1 second that if there's a certain part of your Nefesh that is rectified, or the Ruach, that can ever be damaged. If you already did a Tikkun, Hashem will put it aside. Sometimes what happens is that the Nefesh is corrected. It will go to a place in Gan Eden, sit over there. Gan Eden, by the way, is a waiting room. It's a nice lounge room. And the souls wait there till Mashiach comes. It's not a permanent place. When Mashiach comes, they close Gan Eden. They empty Gan Eden, all the Neshamot come out, and they close it. All the souls will come down in Tchiyat HaMetim, of course. Which I am not going to have time tonight to go through the concept of Tchiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead. But very briefly, just to satisfy that thirst, again, in the course of the Gates of Reincarnation, I go in details about the Tchiyat HaMetim. Because a lot of people say, wait a minute, if I've been here 20 times, which body wakes up in Tchiyat HaMetim? Well, I'm going to have 20 bodies. I'm going to be sitting with myself. So, first of all, and most important, the Ari HaKadosh explains that we only get one body that will come up in Tchiyat HaMetim, and that will be the body that was reached the highest tikkun in any type of the lives. So it not necessarily will be this body. It might be a body from a previous life. But, this is where it becomes a little bit tricky and a little bit freaky, is that sometimes a piece of a certain body will be attached to another piece of another body and another piece from different lives. We're not going to look like Frankensteins. Don't worry. Tchiyat HaMetim is a very high level of spiritual awareness. It's not that the graves are going to open like convertibles and bodies are going to come out from there like it's not going to. That's not how it looks. Tchiyat HaMetim is scheduled to come about 40 years after the coming of Mashiach, when the world will be refined. Tchiyat HaMetim is a very high level where a soul can be in a soul can be in a body, but elevate the body to the level of the soul. We are going to be like Adam and Chava, seeing Elokut everywhere, seeing godliness everywhere. V'yada de'a haaretz et Hashem. Everybody will see the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right now we don't see nothing. So this is the original state when a soul is in a body, Ein Sof, in a gvul, in a limit way. This is Tchiyat HaMetim. Don't imagine Frankenstein's walking like that. It's just a very high level of spiritual awareness or a spiritual consciousness. But when it comes to a body, the Arizal says, could be that from one lifetime, one piece of the body, another piece, and it will form it, and of course will be brand new bodies. But needless to say, that you want to have the merit to get up in Tchiyat HaMetim. Some souls will not come up in Tchiyat HaMetim. There's different stages of the coming of Mashiach. Some souls can lose their option of Tchiyat HaMetim and they'll come later, which is a big loss. Why wouldn't you want to be coming up in Tchiyat HaMetim? I can tell you already that one of the ways of losing your opportunity to come back in the resurrection of the dead is this thing. When you misuse it, lashon hara, slandering, lying, and so forth. There's a little bone we have here in the back, and every time that I say lashon hara, I scrape the bone. This is the bone that we're going to be resurrected from. So every time we say lashon hara, we scrape it a little bit. That's one of the many reasons, if you saw or notice, on Havdalah we put wine on the bone in the back. Why? Because the Shabbat is the tikkun for lashon hara. The best tikkun for lashon hara is when I have the 3 meals around the table on Shabbat, and every time I have a meal. That's why I'm sure you notice when you say Birkat HaMazon, we say a certain line, Veidaber elai zeh hashulchan lifnei Hashem. Veidaber elai zeh hashulchan, this table will be a tikkun for the dibur, Veidaber elai lifnei Hashem. So when I sit and I have a meal, and I wash my hands and say Birkat HaMazon, one of the most powerful mitzvot we have in the Torah, most people have the biggest yetzer hara when it comes to Birkat HaMazon. Most people, you'll give them a roll. Is this mezonot? Yeah, I don't know. I'll have an apple. People will drive half an hour to the pizzeria that serves the mezonot pizza, just not to wash and say Birkat Hamazon. That's how pathetic it is. Hashem is giving you $1 million check, and you're saying, I don't feel like standing in the line in the bank. So Birkat Hamazon is one of the most powerful tefillot, prayers that we have. But sitting around the table, there's a CD outside. Look for the CD, it's Zohar number 3, or if you go online to Be'er Miriam website, it's the course about the 3 meals of Shabbat. It's a lot of classes about the mystical explanation about the 3 meals in Shabbat, why we have 3 meals, what is the spiritual significance behind that. Learn that very well, so you're not going to miss it. The tikkun for everything that we do with our mouth is in the meals on Shabbat. And unfortunately, this mouth is working overtime. Slandering and cheating and lying and cursing. The ultimate tikkun for anything with the mouth is in 2.5 weeks, which of course will be on Pesach. That's the highest tikkun we can reach for our mouth. But when we damage with our mouth, a person chas v'shalom loses opportunity to get up in Tchiyat HaMetim. This is not something you want to miss. But nevertheless, this is about Tchiyat HaMetim, and there's much more to learn about Tchiyat HaMetim. But going back to what I was saying, is that when I come here, I have to go through a cycle of doing all the mitzvot. When I'm able to refine my nefesh, the nefesh will be held in a very safe place, so I'm not going to damage it. Now what's going to happen is that my ruach has no nefesh to sit on. Now what's going to happen? The ruach is going to look for a nefesh to sit on, because the ruach has to ride on a nefesh. A ruach cannot come into a body without a nefesh, a component of the soul. The ruach will find the nefesh of a non-Jew and will sit on the nefesh of the non-Jew, and then the non-Jew, out of nowhere, in the middle of somewhere in the world, suddenly wants to convert, wants to get closer to Judaism, suddenly is awakening. Now there are 2 ways how people convert, which is extremely important. One of them, as we can't pinpoint, there is a source that says that if a Jew did any type of form of idol worship, which was very common 2,000, 3,000 years ago, then a rectification will be to fall into a body of a non-Jew. And will have the desire to convert, become Jewish, and I don't know if you are aware or if you are a convert yourself, it's not easy to convert. The converts, they go through hell to convert, and that's part of the tikkun. But nevertheless, that's one option when the soul is born in a non-Jewish body, and the person will suddenly, out of nowhere, in the middle of their life, will look to convert or would love Judaism or whatever it is, and then we'll have to go through the process, convert, and then they're released from the body. Some situation, like I told you, the ruach is sitting on the nefesh of the non-Jew, and then the person will convert. The prize, the lottery of that nefesh is that it will be attached to this ruach for eternity. Even when the person will die and the ruach will leave the body, the original nefesh will be attached to the ruach, and then the nefesh that assisted will be attached to, and then they will go up together and will be attached for eternity. So it's extremely important to know 2 things. A is whatever I did a tikkun cannot be damaged. A lot of people say you damage your soul. No such a thing. The neshama cannot be damaged. The neshama is protected. The nefesh can be damaged. The neshama cannot be damaged. More than that, I know many people, they're interested in Judaism, they like Judaism, they want to convert. So I highly recommend that any person who's not Jewish and they have some type of interest in Judaism, they have to go and explore it to see maybe they need to convert. A lot of them don't need to convert, they just need to become Noahites, righteous Gentiles. But nevertheless, this is one form of the conversion. Now, needless to say that there are so much more information. We can sit here now for a few more hours and go through more and more details. The Zohar classes that we have from Saba Mishpatim, this is from Parashat Mishpatim, we are in class 61 or 62. 62 hours of we didn't even do half the part. If not even quarter. So there's a lot of information. I know a lot of it is very technical, mechanical, and definitely not clear. Gates of Reincarnation, we've been learning it for almost a year. The classes now are going online, and we're only in chapter 9 because it becomes very deep, very thorough, a lot of information. But you want to learn this information, first of all for the knowledge, because the knowledge is unbelievable. Just to know it. More than that, to understand that I came down to this world. I am here to do a tikkun. I am not here to spend time on Facebook, eat in restaurants, go on Kosher for Pesach, and waste my time. I mean, if you want to go on Kosher for Pesach, that's fine, but I'm just, for the sake of example. Most people do not understand that they're here for a tikkun. And a tikkun, again, does not necessarily means that I'm being punished. It means that I have to finish what I need to do in this world, and I have to find as fast as possible what I need to do in this world. When it comes to Torah and Mitzvot, like I told you, first of all, everybody has to follow the Torah and Mitzvot. There's no difference between one Jew and another. It doesn't say in the Torah, if you are between the ages of 25 and 35, and you live in South Florida, you are exempt from this mitzvah. It says, lo tignov, that's it. Lo tignov means don't steal. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, how old you are, doesn't matter how you call yourself, conservative, reform, orthodox, Hasidic, the Torah says, lo tignov, end of story, which means everybody is the same. I don't go by the definitions. He's orthodox, he's Hasidic, he's this. This is just inventions. A Jew is a Jew, end of story. This is our inventions to try to kind of define us, because if I belong to this group, then I don't have to do these things, and if I'm in that group, I have to do that. The Torah is for everybody equal. If it says in the Torah to eat kosher, it means I have to eat kosher, you have to eat kosher. There's no difference between me and you. If the Torah tells me not to steal, we're all not allowed to steal. If the Torah is telling me to observe Shabbat, there's no difference between me or you. Or you or anybody. It's all the same. If you are less observant or more observant, this is one of your signs that, okay, how do I catch up? Because this is probably the last round. I do not think there's more rounds of Gilgulim. Mashiach is coming any moment. The reality is that Mashiach is already here. Some people feel it, some people see it, some people know it, some people still don't know it. Mashiach is already here. It's a matter of, can be moments. You do not want to get to a point that you're missing something. So, because I don't think there's another round and another round. Now, one important thing to know, I'll try to